It's 1 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and jump in and get started. With me today, I have my team. I'm Craig O'Neill, by the way. We have Michael Cotillo.
How's everyone doing?
We have Levi Linsman.
Hi, glad to be here with you guys.
These guys comprise our training team here at Auto Text Me. I really value their input. I'm not great with numbers, but our combined experience it's up there. So, the cool thing is, and I've mentioned this before, if you've seen some of our previous webinars, Levi was a client before he was a trainer, which is really fun. And that's pretty unique.
Yeah, it's nice to, to be in the shop environment, see how the tool can improve your life. I worked at the shop for 18 years. I grew up in the shop environment. I was a service writer for 10 years with the place. And we used Auto Text Me for 2 years, and it was an amazing transition. It really helped me out a lot. I loved every part of it. You know, some of the beginning stages were a little bit rough for me, just learning something new. But after that, it was really nice to have it. So glad to be on this team with you guys.
Hey, you've been a champion, Levi. We appreciate it. Michael hails from the dealership world, right?
I do. Started off as a lot attendant when I was 16 years old and worked my way up through the ranks to end up being service manager and spent 25 years working in the dealership world. So
great. And here's the thing I love about this team is that our varied experiences, although it's intense, we have different experiences using inspections in the shop. And it is kind of why I wanted to ask this question. And you should see this on the screen. Everyone sees that clearly, right, Michael and Levi?
Yep.
Beautiful. Does your shop charge the client for vehicle inspections? These statistics did surprise me a little bit, but they actually did follow the trends that I expected more than our last question in our previous webinar. I was a little surprised by the results on that one. But 31% offer multiple inspections, some of them having a paid component to it. 28.6% say they do charge, but only if it's a pre-purchase inspection. A neat topic to dive into. We're not going to pick on any of these things in particular in this conversation, but you look at 35% does only courtesy inspections, and there's a small percentage of people that just don't even do many inspections at all. I'm not surprised to see that out there. Not all of our clients are using the digital vehicle inspection component of the tool. Some are just using workflow and communications. This is all about the inspection process. And because we know there is such a wide and varied way that shops are leveraging inspections, we built a tool that can accommodate whatever method you're using. And that's the gist of this conversation. We want to show you how you can reflect your process, your inspections inside of Auto Text Me as easy as possible. And it is pretty easy once you know a few basic tricks. This is a topic we get a lot of questions on. Michael and Levi, I know you spent a good deal of time with some shops covering exactly the customizable components, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we get questions about that, and it's nice to be able to offer the different sheet, easy access to it, to be able to use two sheets for the same customer. That's a really nice option if need be, so you can leverage the different inspections at your shop.
Sure. And Levi, tell me, in your shop, where did you fall in on this pie chart?
So we were on the 35% we did the same inspection for every vehicle, whether it came in for a tire repair or if it came in for a full vehicle diagnostic or checkout. If it came
always
in
for a courtesy. No.
Yeah, always a courtesy. We didn't, we told them that we were going to be inspecting the car, but it didn't, like a clunk and rattle. If it came in, we wouldn't charge for that, and then we would go through and do this whole inspection, which could sometimes lead to $0 if we didn't charge for any of it. So if the customer declined the work.
Interesting. Michael, how about you in the dealer world?
As far as like a cursory inspection, no, there was no charge. They did a courtesy inspection on every vehicle that came in. It was a paper form inspection. And a lot of times it was done solely for the purpose that Honda required that we did an inspection on the vehicle, because they asked in the survey if the customer received a copy of their inspection. Now, when it came into a customer coming in with a concern, that would go into a diagnostic charge, and they would get a diagnostic done, but no inspection was actually included with the diagnostic. It was just the text recommendations written on the back of a work order.
Familiar with that model.
And So
Yeah.
realistically, I mean, my experience in the dealership world when it came to doing proper inspections it was very lacking,
Hmm.
and wasn't something that was high up on their list of things that they wanted to perfect or improve upon.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, no, that was my experience early on. Our shop, transmission specialty, right? We were a transmission specialty moving into general repair. Digital inspections came in pretty much as the transformative thing in my career, where I was against inspections. I was one of those techs, especially, that thought they were really gimmicky, kind of a sales tool. And I used to sort of laugh at the inspections that would come in. People would have that piece of paper with the scribbles on them coming into our shop and say, hey, can you look at these things this other shop did? And it's like, well, yeah, and we were always that kind of shop that wanted to give people really good news. The reality is, I had good coaches after getting out of that phase. I've mentioned before in our webinars, and we've had him as a guest as well. Bob Greenwood was my coach, and he had a different perspective on it that was beat into my brain like a club. It was that your job is to make sure the vehicle is safe, reliable, and efficient. And once I made that leap in there, I started to see and value the inspections very differently. We learned how to turn it into part of our profit center. We did charge initial assessments for being a specialty shop. Anyone comes in with a transmission problem, there is a diagnostic testing component to a lot of it. But we built our inspections into part of that process. So there's a $90 charge for most average inspections that had a good visual over the car. It wasn't billed as a safety inspection or anything. But then we also learned to offer a comprehensive inspection, which we billed $180 for. It was an hour and a half that we'd spend. And we used that to manage vehicle maintenance for that client as we tried to become more than transmissions over a period of time. So those options are there. And the ability to do multiple inspections is pretty evident. One of the things that we want to talk about, and some of you may have seen the news story on a vehicle that was involved in a rollover. I think the actual event occurred 5 years ago. A store from a franchise had a technician do an inspection. They did not look at the tires, perhaps, or they called the tires safe, is how I understand it.
That's what
Tire was 10 years old, right? In the article, guys, you saw the same thing. And then of course, the vehicle had an accident. Lady was condemned to a wheelchair. The dog died in this accident. Horrific scenario for a shop that had just recently called something safe that was not. The reason multiple inspections is a topic I wanted to talk about today is because there is different levels of inspections I like to see shops ask for, because there are different expectations that a client comes into a shop for that we need to communicate to our technicians. And one form isn't always the best form for the whole shop, or maybe even specific technicians who don't have the certifications, the knowledge, or the expertise to make a safety related decision on a vehicle. And if we're putting that in front of technicians, well, that's something I love about Auto Text Me, is that we actually have many safeguards built into it so that if you don't look at something, it won't show up to the customer as a false green, for example. And we also store in the tool the ability to see when a technician, or if it was a service advisor who changed something on the inspection sheet, they are timestamped. So there is a story that each of the DVIs have. How we build those inspection sheets matters. There's all kinds of other reasons for it here. And Michael and Levi, I know you have some opinions on this as well.
Yes. I mean, one of the big things I like to look at when I'm training a shop when it comes to how they're going to be doing these inspections is when a shop wants to do one solid inspection, but just break it down into segments and say, well, we can just do this brake segment down here if they come in for a brake inspection. And we can just do the suspension section if they're coming in for a noise concern underneath the vehicle. And while that's well and good in some aspects of it, you're still not gaining all the information that you want to from the inspection, because when you go to run your reports on the inspection to see what areas of the inspection are being leveraged, you're getting incomplete information from that aspect. It also is very difficult to communicate that information to the technician as to what you're supposed to be doing. When you're using the multiple inspection approach, you, as the advisor, are assigning an inspection sheet to the technician. So when the technician opens up his digital vehicle inspection, that is the inspection that's loading. There's no confusion on what he is supposed to be doing at that point. Missing things on an inspection in general is going to lead to a upset customer in a good scenario where you end up in the lawsuit situation as a very bad scenario.
Yeah. It's a scenario we've been trying to avoid for a long time in this industry, and it's not well defined in the industry who should do what and when. Michigan, very different than Pennsylvania. Levi, I know you understand Michigan certifications, being in Detroit area like I do. Certain technicians aren't certified in all areas. If they're not in Michigan, you're not even supposed to have them look at that area. They actually can't make recommendations on that area unless a certified technician signs off on those recommendations with them.
And that's why you employ your technicians, is to make those safety calls, correct? It's not for a service writer or a brand new guy to come in and make judgments on safety related items. That incident right there could happen to any shop in the country. And that's what's nice about having the digital format is once we know that we are going to be inspecting tires on every vehicle for a safety check, we take the pictures of the tire. We also put the DOT on there so you can see the date on it. So then that stuff can be eliminated. So there's not a breakdown in communication between the technician and the service writer. Because it's very easy for them to say, hey, everything's all good. And then the service writer's like, he's got 50 things on his plate and he's sitting there going, yep, he marked it good. He never looked at it from the service writer perspective. And then that customer just got sent out with tires that are 10 years old.
Yeah, let's back up a little bit on what you were saying there. And Michael touched on this too, communicating things to the technician. In Auto Text Me, the details section, you pop that out inside of the tool and you can see there's the area for adding RVH. Now, different integrations allow for this to happen from your shop management system. I'm showing this standalone. Some of you on ProTractor and other systems already have this in there, but you need to document these concerns. And my fear is that service advisors are assuming too much from a technician in a lot of cases. So I'm just going to say, hey, customer has safety concerns. Going on a road trip. You can add some notes on that, right? Going on road trip. And that was the situation in that news story as well. They were moving a good distance and driving, as I understand it. When you hit update on this, when that technician views this DVI later on, that is a key thing, the reason the vehicle's here. And as you know, in Auto Text Me, this is something that we've had for a very long time. If a technician does not acknowledge that concern, it is not possible for him to complete that inspection. And there are new areas of the tool that we're going to talk about here as well that have additional requirements. If you didn't see the feature request from about a week and a half ago, we now allow certain line items on the DVI also to be required. And we're going to touch on that when we get into DVI Sheet Setup. But this RVH, this reason the vehicle's here, this is a good communication point. Do I want to rely only on my technicians seeing this note? Probably not. I was just at a 4-day class with Jason Servideo, Transformers Mastermind Group, Advanced Service Advisor Training. Fantastic. Can't recommend it enough. One of the topics that was discussed in that class is along these lines where that service advisor must have that communication with the tying the front counter to that back section of the shop and making sure those expectations are perfectly clear, that they know exactly what they should be inspecting, what is involved in this inspection, why it's valuable. And this is Kingpin. Service advisors are the responsible party for managing the ticket through the shop in most conventional schools of thought. I hope people are in agreement on that. If we just throw this at the technician and say, that's their job, are they going to like hearing that sort of language? Probably not. And we've all had situations or heard of situations where technicians are at odds with service advisors up front. And guys, this will happen anytime there's not clear communication in two directions. And we need to empower our technicians to be able to tell us exactly what they see. They need to understand, like I was mentioning earlier from the Bob Greenwood quote, that the vehicle is safe, reliable, and efficient. That's our job, not to fix cars. I'm going to beat that into everyone's head that I meet too. And I'll keep quoting Bob on it as well. Now that's the one way. The other ways that we can do this, there's a few areas in the tools. That's just in the detail section. That's using the RVH, but we can also assign inspections on the digital work order. And again, folks, I realize that some of you have integrations that you have a job item for an inspection. That's fantastic. Standalone in Auto Text Me, With our digital work orders, you also have an ability to assign inspections on here too. There's an add inspection button right here. If this is a specific job, if it's a sold item, you can click on that and you pick which inspection sheet that you want them to perform. If I just want the basic fluids and safety inspection in this particular case, I can make note of what the time duration is, any notes I need to do, and I can add that inspection directly to this work order. It'll have the time on it, has a timer for the technician if they want, but more interestingly, that becomes a link directly to that inspection. You click it from the digital work order, pulls you straight to that inspection sheet. It's already selected for that technician. And with that digital work order component active, it makes it very clear that that must be performed in the visit. And if your shop designed a sheet and has specific standards for it, they should know that marking that complete means they did it to the T on your shop's policy. Other inspection sheets can be selected at any time. So if you are relying only on the RVHs to assign inspections, you can specifically specify which inspection you want to have here. When you add an RVH, which is also possible from the DVI as a service advisor, you can add a specific service, and you can even ask for, hey, I'll just put the express inspection. This won't link to the inspection, and I can type, I promise you. Not even close. I got to
sure.
Wow. See, this is why we do post edits. You get that, Scott? He's our edit guy. So there it is. There's the service, right? And we highlight those differently. You see, there's a concern, there's service. There is one other piece of the RVHs as well. You can add informational notes, road trip coming soon, right? If that was what we just wanted to say, hey, great. We have 3 different types of thing. They're colorful, they're easy to see, they show up on the tablet, and it forces that acknowledgement once again. There we go. All right, so let's move on. We talked about each of these points already, advisors setting those expectations, ensuring that the technicians are communicated. From here, let's take a look at how we can set up the DVI sheet specifically to accommodate these sort of things. Now, DVI Sheet Setup is available for the administrators in Auto TextMe. Let's go ahead and pop that open over here. We'll jump in your admin menu. You have DVI Sheet Setup. And once you're on the screen, and for a lot of you, I realize this may be familiar, but hang on, because there's the new features we talked about on required DVIs. I want you to see how this looks. First off, we have our sheet. We select which one we're editing. Lots of these options here. We'll come back to this. But notice this new feature, required items. If you want to make sure that your inspection sheet does not get submitted without this item being marked green, yellow, or red, go ahead and hit that button. Now, this is the first layer for requirements, by the way. I'm sure, and I can hear some of you already. Great, can we require a certain number of pictures too? And all down the road, don't worry. But initially, we want to make sure that that line item is at least marked green, yellow, or red. Right there. And we do allow videos. Some of you may not be aware of this. This was several months ago. You can actually toggle this on. That allows you to show videos for each line item. It used to be just category level, but now you can turn those on as well. Now, Michael, we talked at length about this section, the DVI sheet setup stuff. There's a lot of shops that we work with that like to use one sheet to rule them all, right? And then there's others who will use multiple inspection sheets. Pros and cons.
Well, I think my biggest pro to the multiple inspection sheets is your ability to give the tech specific direction. The advisor knows if we are doing this particular inspection, the tech knows we're doing this particular inspection. We're also giving that information about that inspection we are doing to the customer. Because if we're telling the customer we're doing a safety inspection, the customer is going to be expecting us to check everything that would be a safety concern. And when it comes back, if everything's green, the vehicle is 100% safe to drive.
Oh, and you mentioned something else too there, and I'm going to just pick on that a second. The customer expected something, right? They have their own built-in expectations, and I'm sure Levi's seen this too, where they assume, right, that we're looking at the whole car. Have you ever had someone ask you that?
Yeah. Did you look at the whole car? Well, we looked at this part. If you would like us to look at everything on the vehicle, we do offer this other inspection. This inspection is XYZ. You can, that's where you're,
and that's a sales proposition.
that's the sales proposition where you're selling an upgrade on the inspection. If you're looking for every nut and bolt, you want a comprehensive inspection done, we can do those comprehensive inspections, but it's an additional charge.
Yeah. So you communicate with the client on the value, on what's going into a inspection, but you already mentioned the technician might not have the same understanding of it. For example, you take on a new technician, you hand them this multi-point inspection that we created, pretty cool inspection sheet, but maybe you're doing this at a courtesy level. Maybe this is your cursory inspection. And Levi, you know as well as I do, brakes, Michigan, free inspection. You taking wheels off free? Maybe you did.
Yeah, we did. That was the one of the things that we did for free, and it was never going to be, there was no charging for that.
Interesting. We didn't if the wheels came off. And I would never expect my technicians to do this at a courtesy level, but you guys have this too. I know where a lot of shops will use this sheet even as a courtesy level inspection, but you don't go into that brake category unless we sold the brake inspection.
And you'll see shops too where they're doing through the wheel type of brake check. And that is not, it might be okay for you, but did you look at the inboard pad, or did you fully see the brakes, inner and outer brake pad? I always had issues with that, not seeing the wheels off, and they're like, yep, the brakes are fine or the brakes are bad. Well, how do you know 100% if the wheels are still on?
Yeah. But at a courtesy level, if that brake inspection is being communicated to the client, if it's not being communicated to the client, here's the thing. One sheet, as Michael was talking about, we can do it. You can put everything on here. And if you don't look at it, just leave it blank. We accommodate that practice. And I want to make that very clear. We make it safe for you to be able to have all the categories on one master sheet, and that you just do them as necessary. If you don't click green, yellow, or red on an item in an auto text me inspection, does the client see it?
Nope.
They do not. Does it ever look like we skipped something? Nope. And if you call it green to just quickly pencil whip an inspection, would they see it then?
Yes.
Yes, they would. Yep. So yeah, that's one of those key things. Like if you are pencil whipping and you start calling stuff good that you didn't look at, not so great. We're going to come back to that point later.
I should say, if you want to go into the pencil whipping, real quick, let's hit on one of the worst setup features you can put on, which is
you want me to go over into DVI Sheet Setup and show them the option I wish we could get rid of?
They default to green, Craig, and I knew you were going to go to that particular one. Default to green, I wish we could eliminate. I don't want it around. That is the absolute worst setting you can have turned on, because it's automatically putting a green checkbox on every single line item of your inspection. And
what's that saying if it's marked green?
It means it's good. It means I checked it and it is good. And if your shop is currently using the default to green, please turn that off, because when I go in and start training texts directly with the technicians, it is, if you did not physically check it, do not mark it green. Leave it blank. You're better off not checking it and marking it, leaving it blank, than marking it that you checked it and not looking at it. It's going to lead to situations like what happened in that lawsuit.
That is exactly my fear.
How that happens.
Now, if there's one takeaway anybody from this webinar takes, it's that if you are using a default to green and your technicians only change it from green to yellow or red if something's wrong, then, and this is a really harsh opinion, all right? I'm just going to say, you need to go down into here and you need to change this language from checked and okay to maybe we looked at it, maybe we didn't.
Maybe we looked at it. It's because it's what it is.
Hey, we let you change the language. I'm just saying.
Can you imagine explaining that? Did you look at everything? Maybe.
Yeah. But
not a green check box doesn't mean we actually looked at it.
True or false, DVIs and inspections are all about providing transparency in our process with clients.
That is what we wanted. That's what we wanted to accomplish with them.
Yeah, I love that you guys are in agreement with me on this one. And if there's anyone that does disagree in our audience, please feel free to tell me I'm off my rocker. That's okay. I get it. And I understand why, from a time-saving perspective, people would want to have everything already marked green. But guys, our sheets, if you're trying to save time, just don't click on anything that you didn't look at. If you have one thing on your DVI marked red because that is all you had time for, well, we've got other conversations to have about your process, right? But that's all you have time for.
I say that about 3 times during every training. If you don't look at it, just like Mike said, if you didn't look at it, don't check it. That was one of the biggest hiccups training new guys at the shop when it was in-house, was like, oh, look at how big this inspection is. I can't believe I have to click on everything. Nope. It's really easy. You can whip right through it.
Rui, spot on. You can save a bunch of time by not doing the inspection at all. Of course you can. And sarcasm notwithstanding, that's sort of the point. They do take a little time. We all realize this, but the value, if you really believe in the value of an inspection, that time is well spent. On that point, guys, how long should a courtesy inspection take? Just opinions. There's no right or wrong in this, but in your opinion, how long should a courtesy inspection take?
Courtesy inspection?
Courtesy inspection.
7 to 10.
7 to 10? Levi?
Yeah, 10 or 15 minutes.
Doggone, you guys have been around me long enough now too. 7 to 12 minutes. Yeah, is usually what I tell people. And at a courtessity level, no technician at a courtesy level is generally going to spend half hour, 40 minutes on here. Your opportunity costs for actual productivity is going to get crushed. And at a courtesy level, what are you really looking at? And let's go back for a second and let's take a look at one of our other DVI sheets. We left the DVI sheet setup topic pretty quickly here, but the express inspection, right? When we're offering multiple inspection sheets, I know a lot of shops have a lube bay.
Yep.
A lot of guys have, and Michigan, Levi, lube shops, they're doing inspections, are they not?
They are, yeah.
Does Michigan even require certifications for those guys?
I don't think so.
They do not. They don't need to be certified mechanics like the ones in a
and we always had discussions about that, because you're like, all right, these guys are looking at items, and we ended up changing the policy. If there was anything loose that was a safety concern as a front end, we would have them go grab a technician, but then you are pulling the technician away at the same time for free. And then, so there's that whole discussion too. That's,
Yeah, and if it's a new client and you're trying to convert them to a repair customer, obviously getting that technician, certified technician onto the inspection, having their recommendations on their high value proposition. And for converting new customers, I totally get it. There's always some element of a free check or verification by some of these guys. I'm not trying to knock courtesy inspections and anything else. They have their place and we did them too. But this stuff here, building out a simple sheet that anybody that has basic turn a wrench, drain oil, change filter knowledge can actually just look at and verify under hood items, fluids, hoses, things like this, right? But when we start going into this category, this is going to vary state by state too. I personally, if you're making recommendations on brakes, you doggone better be certified in brakes. I remember training a shop for a franchise when I was working for a different inspection company. They were in North Carolina, and I said to them, make sure when you're doing your inspection that the technician is certified in that category. And they said, what do you mean? It's like, oh man, Michigan, right? We are so unique in this. And I know a lot of provinces in Canada are also very unique in this as well. There are actual government standards for this. And I'm not going to say, hey, government standards solve problems and everybody should do them. There should be a federal anything, not going down that. There's rabbit trails galore. But the point was pretty simple. Shops needed to staff people that have a certain level of certification that we can then communicate to the customer exactly what that value is. So maybe this category gets removed, but you can build a very simple sheet. This one has so few items on it, right? Just basic condition type stuff on some things. Maybe we drop the undercar and brakes even, and you just have some basic underhood things. This would be a 5-minute inspection in some cases, and that's very manageable. Once you have a few different sheets here, you can archive them. If you want to temporarily disable them, you can make one of them your default that automatically applies to a ticket. You also have the tire inspection component, which you can apply to any of the sheets. This is a little bit of a piece that a lot of shops overlook. That tire inspection, you can click on this. And we've added this other feature. It's called the multi-axle tire inspection. I know a lot of you guys see dually trucks, right? The 2 back wheels. And I know a lot of you are probably irritated by this picture because this tire should be on the inside. I see it too. But the tires can be removed from your default, or you can add another tire as well. If you want to add inners or outers, you can do that. You can add axles if you're a commercial shop. This is a pretty neat upgrade to the regular tire inspection. Behaviorally, it works just like our conventional one. Our standard 2-axle inspection was there. We also have the ability to do reminders now for tire rotations, which is pretty cool. If you tick this box here, you'll have that option inside of the DVI, and it'll automatically go for 6 months, but you'll see a little calendar drop down if you need to do 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months, whatever you're doing for tire rotations. Maybe it's not even a tire rotation specifically. That's what we call it. But maybe it's a Michigan shop and you've got a tire hotel and it's time to put those summer tires back on. You can put that as well and build your own message, which can be straight up built in. Nice stuff.
It is really cool. Mm-hmm. That is such a cool feature.
Multi-axle inspection, pretty neat. Our commercial fleet accounts love this as well. When you can just set it up for the type of vehicle, fire trucks, you name it. I'm still waiting to see some more vehicles like this, but maybe it'll happen. But that's the tire inspection. And yeah, guys, by the way, I realize that's not done first on most inspections. A lot of times you do that after, depending on the shop. You can choose whether that's on the top or bottom of your DVIs now. For our veteran users that have been with us across many years, that's a feature that you should probably take a look at. Up or down arrow there, simple as that. Now, we're going to jump over a little bit now. We've talked DVI sheet setup a little bit. I think we covered all the things required notes, some of the weaknesses of using a big sheet versus multiple sheets. Let's jump into, I'm sorry, we're going to jump back one. And here we are. DVI notes. These are the predefined notes that we use inside of the DVI. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean real quick. There's a couple different things that we do. There's a difference, by the way, from a finding and a recommendation. Does that mean you have to use both in auto text me?
No, you do not have to use both.
No, definitely not. But recommendations are in my mind, this is exactly the thing that you're going to recommend for an item that has something wrong with it. Here, I'll go to my main inspection sheet here. We'll use our wonderfully crafted default inspection that we start everybody off with. We'll go into transmission fluid because it's my topic. Hey, we have recommendations that can be chosen regardless of whether it's green, yellow, or red. And then we can also break this out a little bit further. So if the transmission fluid was great, doesn't need anything, we can have a note pre-canned in there for no action being required. We have maintenance notes, right? Yellow items. We're going to talk about this in a minute, Levi, because I know this is a topic that we want to discuss of red versus yellow. But the yellow recommendations will be here. The red recommendations will be here. And there might be some overlap between these two. You can build this out pretty neat. And how it looks inside of the DVI, let's jump over to Joe Paluca's 2002 Odyssey here. And we'll just go down to that transmission fluid note. We have transmission fluid here. When we add a note, and it's a little different on tablet view, right? The recommendations, when you click that box, all of those will show up there. Now, what if we had started with marking the transmission fluid green and we still wanted to add a note? Notice that those recommendations will be filtered out if I had filtered them inside of the DVI sheet setup page. Those are the actions, though. These are the things that we want the service advisor to be able to recommend to our clients and sell work from. What are findings? Findings are the primary notes here. And you'll see I have itemized note findings here. Again, veteran users of AutoTextMe, of which I see several of you on the list here. The former way of doing this was all global notes in predefined text. You would start typing something and it shows up, and that's still there. It works great with those itemized notes, but now you don't even need to do the typing. You can just have this drop-down list. So if you're using an ancient DVI that you built in AutoTextMe 3 years ago, good chance you don't have these itemized notes built in. Let's jump over to DVI Note Setup and show you where we can build those out. And this has evolved. So bear with me if this is review for a few of you, but it used to just be global notes. You would have these predefined notes. You could pop them in here. And I used to have a strategy that I used when I first joined AutoTextMe, where I would preface my note with the line item that it would apply to. So I could just type air filter and there's my options for air filter notes. That still works. It'll work great. The cool thing with global notes, They work for every inspection sheet you create without you having to go into any categories or line items or doing anything. So if you're looking for a very quick way to introduce a new sheet and have basic notes, global notes is a great place to have them. The only thing you need to be aware of is if you're typing notes about a ball joint, for example, you might be doing predefined text, but ball joint notes could bleed into that transmission fluid line item. And that's not very helpful. It gives you a lot to have to filter through. And that's why we introduce category notes. And that's why those categories inside our DVI are so valuable. You have the walk-up category. Obviously, we probably don't need to have ball joint notes showing up in the walk-up category. Even transmission fluid notes wouldn't be good in here, but a lot of other notes are, and these are sheet specific. Once you're going into this section of notes, you will have to pick which sheet you're making those notes for. Notice in global notes, it doesn't care what sheet it is, but in categorized notes, it matters. If you go into a general item and there's only one category, probably not so much use in having categorized notes. If you have an express inspection, notice I don't have categorized notes in this one because we used itemized notes. And we'll go pick that one again because it's nice and short. Itemized notes trump categorized notes trump global notes. That means if I put itemized notes in here in this exterior category, if I did have on that express inspection in the exterior category any notes in here, would I see those notes as an option in the drop down if I have itemized notes in the same category? No, you won't, unless that line item has no line item specific notes. So please try this out. These itemized notes are incredibly valuable. And Michael or Levi, could you link the document that we created? Because guys, this is one of the areas where I really want to draw some attention to. We want to collaborate with your team to build out predefined notes that work for your inspection. The inspections we built, we loaded up with some predefined notes, and our notes aren't terrible. I'm still an ASE certified tech, but it's been a few years since I've been on a car. There's probably some cars that have some problems that I have never seen. And you will probably want to have that represented for your technicians to see that in those drop downs we were showing you on the DVI. Less typing, faster technicians, easier phrasing, and I'll show you a couple other pieces as well.
Goes back to that, how long should it take to do an inspection?
Exactly.
Sometimes the better you set up your inspection, the quicker the tech can complete the inspection.
Yep.
It goes a long way towards them. And it also helps a lot with the communication with the tech and the advisor when you standardize the terminologies that your shop is using for parts, services, labors. You can set a standard so that people aren't using different words for the same action or for the same thing.
And let's tie that red and yellow topic into this too, Michael, because what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And Levi, this is something dear to my heart too, is you can, using these itemized notes, specify if that note is for a green condition, a yellow condition, or a red condition. This makes this a lot less ambiguous and subject to interpretation by a technician. Did you run into that?
Yeah, and since we're talking about transmission fluid, what about trans cooler lines leaking?
Oh, yeah.
If they put it into yellow and it leaves it up to the tech, oh, they're just seeping a little bit.
Yeah, it's
well,
just
when do they turn from seeping to leaking when they're driving on the highway and they don't know that there's any transmission fluid in their car anymore and their transmission goes out? And yeah, that whole nonchalant approach to it, with the itemized notes, it puts it right to red. I mean, that's a red item in my opinion. So,
and this is where we've ran into a few shops, and we're going to talk about accountability in just a moment with reporting. Some technicians, you'll look at the reports and you'll see they mark everything yellow or green, yellow or green, yellow or red, and no red, no red. It's terrifying to call something red, because here's what a lot of technicians that you don't set these expectations for will think. Well, red means they're not going to drive away with that. It doesn't move. No. It means there's something to take care of there, period. If there is something not perfect, I make it red. Guys, I could have done inspections with red and green as the only two options.
Exactly. I would rather red and green. Yellow, to me, the only real area where yellow becomes the right option is when it's based on time and mileage for scheduled maintenances.
Yeah, either looks good, can't look at it,
or
yep.
Yeah, it's yellow because the fluid's okay, but it's the mileage or the age of the vehicle is saying we should be changing this. That's a yellow item.
Bingo. And watch what happens when I click on this. When I make that note and I hit save, it automatically marks it for us. And it works the other way too, guys. If I had this unmarked here, notice I have all these different notes right now. If I click this yellow first and then hit add notes, I only see the stuff that would have been yellow this way as well. It funnels your technician into the selections that meet your standards. Exactly. You just need to set up your standards.
Yep. It's getting everybody on the same page instead of having 4 guys doing 4 different things. That's not, I don't think that's a good scenario.
Yep. And this document that we linked for you in chat, this should be visible. You'll see the link. If you have a Google account, you'll be able to open this up in Google Docs. We have built these notes into this document here. And I'm going to just show you real quick how I would use this, because this is a collaborative document. I don't collaborate with my team. Inside of the setup screen in auto text me, I reserve that setup screen for one person to have the keys for, so that it doesn't have too many cooks in the kitchen, building and messing things up and having that go directly onto a DVI sheet. I want to audit it here first, but I want to get their feedback. You can invite your technicians to collaborate on this document. You can maybe make a separate section for their requested notes that will be added to the DVI sheet. And watch how simple this is. I'm going to take the warning lights category here, and let's go into our DVI sheet setup on our other screen too. I'm going to pop that up before I do DVI Notes setup, and I'm going to pick an inspection sheet here. I'll just do my basic fluids. Let's pop that one up. Nope. Here we go. Here's our itemized notes. I'm going to just lift this. I'm going to take the warning light notes here. So bear with me on this example here. I've copied that with Control C on my keyboard. And then if I wanted to go into the warning light topic on the multi-point inspection, I hit add notes. I would pick the warning light line item for this sheet. See the sheet name here, and I paste them. Control V on my keyboard shortcut. When I hit add type ahead, those notes automatically get injected into that warning light topic. I've already had these in here, so I'll delete these later. But I add them all as a red note initially, and just for the name of speed of adding these things, that's how I paste them in. But you see how it has a separate note for each individual one? Yeah, all you need to do is, hey, call it green, yellow, or red, whatever it is. There are no warning lights. That's green, right? I'm pretty sure that's the only green. Maintenance reminder light is on. Red or yellow.
Maintenance reminder light being on to me is a yellow. Let's go. I mean,
yeah, it's your call, right? But make the call. And then when you guys have done that, and I know we're skipping around a little here, but DVI sheet setup, I'm going to go back here one more time. We made our funny point earlier on, maybe we looked at it, maybe we didn't, but the language here matters. In some states, it matters more than others. California, you guys have the bar. Yeah, take a look at that. But red requires attention. Yellow requires future attention. Simple as that. And I found this to be pretty safe with the bar standards for our California shops too. I think the thing that really you can't do for them, if I'm not mistaken, is you can't say it's required to replace, right? But it can require attention. So, hey, whatever, that's that. So yeah, anyone who needs that link, make sure that's in there, please. And let me know, guys, if there's a question on there. Otherwise, I'm going to quickly move into the benchmark scores. We're going to run out of time here. Few things on the DVI sheet setup options here, or DVI setup, I should say. We already talked about a lot of this, red and yellow, making that language, it matters there. Vehicle information, requiring that from a technician is possible from DVI setup. That is at the very bottom of the DVI setup page. I realize we have 3 areas where we customize the DVI. We have that DVI setup, DVI sheet setup, and DVI note setup. We're in DVI setup for these general toggles that affect all sheets. Again, all sheets in this page. Each of these options are pretty well defined. The yes options that I use are pretty neat. Oh, by the way, guys, new feature for a lot of you users out there that haven't seen this. You can actually show the customer the status the vehicle's at in the workflow on that DVI micro site, the site that they see when you send your inspections. If you want them to see what status their car is in, they can reference that anytime throughout the visit. Look for some enhancements to that as well, but that's kind of a cool one. Pretty safe to do. It'll just show that, oh yeah, it's in the estimating step still. or maybe it's waiting for approval is the status that it's in. Kind of neat. But vehicle required fields. These are the ones I actually use. Maybe if I were actually still in the transmission shop, I'd probably want to know the transmission model as well. Hey, it's important. But that is not going to allow you to submit the DVI as a technician unless those fields are filled in. So toggle any of them to yes that you want to make sure the technician gets. Doesn't mean the service advisor can't go and get them for you still. They can help if they have time. It's the busier role. I get it.
You know what the cool thing about doing, and I'm not trying to cut you off, but
No,
the cool
please.
thing about us doing this is that you could be a user for 2 years and just overlook some of these statuses just because you're like, nothing's changed. And just by looking at this live here or through the webinar, it's nice to be able to do that. I'm looking at for the required fields as a service writer. There was so many times where I had to go back and get mileage or VIN. Making it required would be a nice step.
Yes. No, absolutely. And then benchmarks. We mentioned that in our bullet point here as well. Benchmarks are for measuring team performance. I get tons of questions on this. We're going to blaze through this part because I just want to hop over to our report section here where this will make more sense. This is to measure team performance, not an individual technician, because reports being sent and viewed matter. This allows you to weight the importance of those things. I'm going to do some more stuff on that topic because it's actually a pretty deep topic, but I want to jump into the final section here on the actual accountability and reporting. Are you measuring currently the effectiveness of these DVIs? And this is an area where I see a lot of owners do really good, and then some owners just never dive into it. But we're going to go into the DVI report. I'm going to go, since Craig's Awesome Auto is not a very busy shop, as it is a fake store, we're going to use 30-day view. We can build this out to show you any of the metrics that you want to see. This is one of those things where customization matters. You have a settings button up here on the DVI report. Actually, if you have multiple locations too, you'll have another login so you can look at each individual store from one store. Pretty neat. But settings allows you to go and change these pills at the top of the page to whichever ones you want. And then you can also drag and drop these graphs on here. If you want to add more or take them away, you absolutely can. You can change your view to allow 3 per row or 2 per row and anything else. If you want to just see them a little bigger, you can do that. And they all switch views as well. This is fun. This for me is where I would spend most of my time working with shop owners. Generally, after they've had about 2 weeks of good metrics in the tool, I like to cover this. And if anyone needs a refresher on it, any of these guys with me here today are absolute experts on this. We can help you dial in your reports. So please don't hesitate to reach out for us for an appointment. Now, the area I look at first is actually just this spreadsheet. Hopefully you can see that at the bottom of the screen here, and it'll show you who the customer was, what the vehicle was, which inspection sheet was used, and then how many green, yellow, red, how many pictures, how many videos. If you're marking approvals and auto text me, you'll see that. Seeing the sent, emailed, and view times on this. And yes, this is a fake store, but I promise any one of you who've been using DVIs for any length of time, you will see at least one DVI on your 30-day view having the exact same time as customer open. I love that. And we show you the completion time from the first click to the point that the technician submits the inspection. We show you that time. So you're going to have good tracking on that. You can sort each one of these columns. And then I do want to dive into customer insights very briefly. We don't stop at how the technicians perform it. We also go very far into how the clients are viewing it. And this actually, it's called customer insights. Folks, look at it as service advisor insights too, because our service advisors are the ones responsible for presenting the inspections, making, let's just call it what it is, counseling and advising the client on how the repairs should go. And if the clients aren't looking at the inspection, whose job is it to draw attention to that in that sales call? Service advisor. Service advisor. Mm-hmm. Yep. So you can see what images the client has viewed. I would like to see a lot more of those getting clicked on in some cases. The thumbnail is good enough for a lot of customers. So obviously this only tracks it if they actually click open the image, but viewed images are pretty neat. We show you the total time that they're viewing images and categories. Don't ignore that section. And then finally, I want to go into this here where we can click on an inspection here that was viewed. I'm going to pick the report here. This opens a read-only view of the inspection since it's a closed ticket. We talked about accountability. Guys, this change log is killer. Who did the task, when they did it, what images they upload. You can see who the technician was and when they did every single action on this form. And it goes straight on down to even when the service advisor does things, when they text it, when they email it. If there were pictures deleted, they'll still be in here. In this case, look, the service advisor, Greg, in this case, me, added the tire image, right? Is that useful information on knowing who did what on an inspection and when? Absolutely. That change log is powerful. That is stored with the history records on these DVIs. Now, that benchmark score that you see up here on the right, that is based on what we saw in that DVI setup, where we can weight the importance of certain things. I'm going to blaze through this, so bear with me. This only shows up for items that are marked red or yellow. We don't weight anything on the green items, even though best practice is to add some pictures for green stuff. The yellow and red items are what are going to matter here for the scoring. Notes, images, and markings. You can get a potential of 1 point for each note, total of 3 points for each image, total of 1 point for each image markup. My technicians were only ever taught to add notes and images. I did not require them to make image markups. That is for the service advisor to do. So I would know whose job this is in here. Total score, we got good points for that sway bar item, but everything else was a little lacking. And this is a big reason why our score is only a 5.2 versus a perfect 10. Perfect 10s are unicorns, guys. They don't exist. I've yet to see one that I actually know is a perfect 10 other than an all green inspection. So be aware of that, but please look on the DVI reports page here, because I track average benchmark score in a chart. You can change this to a bar chart if you want. You can see the administrator user has an average around, looks like 4.5 there. And then Lee, my test technician, evidently I'm doing very good demos because I'm above my benchmark of 7. He gets an 8.4. Oh yes, average 5 right there. I can read. You can pop this out and see it better this way. It helps you see how each of the users kind of stack up on benchmark. But again, please don't look at it as just a user. It is a team metric due to the fact that sending and viewing is typically weighted. You don't have to weight it, but I usually do. And we show you that on this here. Yeah, here's a perfect 10. Must be a really well done demo. I think that's the only place those happen in. If there's any questions on the DVI report, please let me know. Please reach out to us. This is easiest to learn with your own metrics to track the information you're looking for. Guys, this is great fun because you can click every one of these pills to dive even further into most of this data. You can see the amount of text that occurred by each user. You can download CSVs and put them in your own spreadsheets. This is great next level stuff. The last thing is setting targets. My targets for images per DVI, I like to see 8 to 13. So I put it on the low end just to make it easier. My real goal for DVIs viewed and texted is actually 100, but again, I want to have a bar that they can get above. So I put that at 90 just to see where those lines track up on here. And when you're looking at DVI viewership in this view, we want to pop that open. You can see when a specific user is getting the full amount versus not. It's test store. Your information is going to be way cooler. Bust that out in week, month time periods. Pretty cool. Now, final piece, item usage summary. And this is one of the absolute best features for multiple inspection sheets and why I prefer using multiple inspection sheets versus a all-in-one inspection sheet. Because we can dive right into the details for each technician on how this inspection sheet is being used. So if I want to look at things, and this is, take this one with a grain of salt. This is a demo store. I usually use the same DVI line items most of the time. And you get to pick your date range. In this case, it's the last 30 days here, so I only have a few on mine. But coolant antifreeze was used by Lee 1 time, right? And we show you the total right on this column. This is the total amount of times all users have clicked on an item in your inspection. When you look at your inspection sheets, especially you guys have been using the same sheet for a long period of time, this is pretty cool. You'll start to see like, okay, 3 sway bar examples. Great. 1 suspension item. And you'll see if certain technicians have 0, some are better than others. This gets really interesting when it comes to a guy that just never recommends anything on brakes or never recommends anything on brake fluid because he's shy of that or something else. You'll be able to see that in this item usage report. It's going to also show you where your inspection sheets maybe have some items that are almost never used. Does that mean you need to keep them there? No, you can go and take away some line items, revise your inspections, shorten them up, make them easier for the users the way it's actually being used, or change your shop policy and make sure they use them.
Make it a required field.
Yeah, make it a required field. There you go. See, problem solved. But just make sure they're not clicking green just to satisfy the requirement, guys. I had some reservations when it came to that option. Are all users going to use it responsibly? Well, I sure hope so. That is definitely up to you and your service advisors to enforce, and making sure that, again, our job as technicians, as service advisors, to make sure the vehicle is safe, reliable, and efficient. Do a good job. Michael, Levi, any points that we missed that we wanted to discuss?
Nothing that we really missed, but I think in a more of like a closing statement here, a properly constructed and performed DVI is more of a report card of the health of a customer's vehicle. We really want the customer to get an understanding of what is needed in their vehicle, what is good, what is bad, so that they can make proper buying decisions, whether it's buying service, buying repairs, buying a new car. We need to start as an industry and as repair shops, educating our customers and informing them of every detail about their vehicle so that they can start making better decisions about their vehicles.
100%.
To add to that, when a customer asks, did you look at everything? We looked at everything that was on that list. And then you're not lying about it. We looked at everything that was checked off for you on your inspection report. It's in your hand. We have it documented. It's really nice. This was a good discussion topic here today. We covered a lot of information. We'll be able to they'll be able to access this afterwards too.
Yeah,
so
7 days after we're done with this will be posted with edits so that we look smarter.
It will also be on the Facebook clients group. I know, I'm going to plug that.
Absolutely. No, and actually that is worth plugging. Michael's been doing a great job on our client group. We want to keep stimulating discussions here. This is still an industry topic. You've all heard like the Amazon. This is day one stuff, guys. It's still day one in this industry for digital inspections. I have to point out to you, you are all early implementers still on a technology that, in my opinion, shouldn't be early anymore. But there's so many shops that aren't doing this. We want to get to a point where the industry expectations actually align across all shops. I realize it's so independent right now, and obviously we've seen the customizable features, but hey, let's be the leaders and continue to set the standards that others eventually, hopefully, will follow. All right, guys, if there's no final questions, this meeting is adjourned. Thanks for doing this with me, guys. Hey, there's the link for Facebook in there, and
I did throw the link
to the recording as well.
Group into there, and
maybe this is one of those pieces Scott can do on the post edits where it say, "Hey, like or subscribe to our Facebook or YouTube channel or something." Right? Click the button.
Any of these features we discussed in here that we did recently release, I go over those in live videos every week when we release new features through the Facebook client group. So
great job.
People who weren't aware of them, who were made aware by this, would have already been aware of these features if they were part of that group.
Hey. Maybe they looked at the feature release notes. Maybe they didn't. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. You have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll see you, I think, second week in June will be the next webinar we do.